What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the major label debut by rapper Young Dro. And basically this project came out in the summer of 2006 and it's called Best Thang Smokin. Now, Young Dro is an affiliate of T.I. He was the second largest artist on Grand Hustle for a while throughout the mid-late 2000s. But the thing about Young Dro is he was kind of plagued by a couple of things, some of which I'm going to talk about in the review as it goes along. But just kind of the concept about it was he had a smash hit single with Shoulder Lean, and that was a big, huge ringtone rap type song. Shoulder Lean was a huge ringtone rap song and that type thing, and definitely was popular in the snap rap and ringtone rap era. But the follow-up single, Rubber Band Banks, didn't quite do that well, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a little. We're going to talk about more in a little bit. The follow-up single, Rubber Band Banks, didn't do that well, which we're going to talk about more throughout this review. But then also, Young Dro did not put out a second album, which was kind of a problem. He did not put out a follow-up to this project until the fall of 2013. And I really felt like he could have used a hit album again in like 2008 or 2009. I remember picking up or reading a Double XL magazine in the fall of 2007 or so, late 2007, and Young Dro talked about he was working on his second album that was supposed to come out on Grand Hustle, and eventually he put out a song called Takeoff in late 2008, early 2009 that was supposed to be the follow-up, the single to his follow-up album, but it just never surfaced. And Young Dro kind of BS'd his way throughout the later years and basically lost all of his aura and steam between August of 2006 when this came out and October 2013 when his actual second album came out, which is really too bad because I definitely could have used another Young Dro album in the 2000s. It would have really kicked ass to have gotten that. I think if he would have dropped when T.I. dropped Paper Trail, or even in 2009 when T.I. was going to prison, just around that time would have been really brilliant, but it just didn't happen. But this is a pretty excellent album. I definitely feel like this is a highlight of Dirty South rap music and snap rap and ringtone rap type music. This is definitely one that's up there with like Young Jock's New Jock City, T.I.'s King, uh, like Lil Wayne's The Carter 2, and like Father Like Son with Birdman, just stuff like that. A lot of hit albums from like 2006. Rick Ross's Port of Miami. There's just some good Dirty South albums, and this is definitely a front runner in those highlights. If you are looking for highlighted rap music from 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008 or so, folks like Jeezy, Birdman, Lil Wayne, T.I., Young Jock, Young Dro is definitely a highlight for that sort of sound, and it just has a lot of good hits on here. Unfortunately, there's nothing ever quite as huge as Shoulder Lane, but that's not to say that this is a bad album. It's just not a commercial kind of highlight. I feel like for most people, I think they would just see Young Dro as kind of like T.I.'s wingman, where T.I. is on the chorus in Shoulder Lane. A lot of folks probably thought that was just T.I.'s song, but it's just kind of like, hey, I like T.I. I liked him on What You Know and Why You Wanna and some of those songs from 2006 and Top Back. So I don't know who this is, but I do like this song, that kind of aura about it. But unfortunately, Young Dro just kind of had some degree of difficulty establishing himself, but he was a pretty thorough highlight from the snap rap and ringtone rap kind of era. It's just the fact that unfortunately it just seemed like his album did not soar. But I look after it, it is worth sifting through. I would definitely say this album is worth sifting through. So if you pick up this record and you think, hey, I remember Shoulder Lane, or you possibly remember Rubber Band Banks, and you want to find some more hits, this is actually a pack to the gills. Like a lot of snap rap albums were one hit wonders, but they actually had some hits on here. This is the same thing I felt about the D4L album and like Jibbs's album and some of those type snap rap, ringtone rap type stuff. Is some of these folks, despite the fact that they only had one hit single that really charted high, they do have some quality hits on here, and this is a lot of highlights. Young Dro packed this album to the gills full of quality club cuts on here, and it's just an overall good social time that this is a lot more lively than I would have expected, and this really has some great, excellent feelings. I would say that Young Dro actually had more club moments on here than T.I. did on King and Ti versus Tip and some of those type albums. This is really like Young Dro liked to floss and he liked to kind of go out and have some of those times. And there's just some overall great moments on here for doing such a thing. But I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the singles. So the first single is Shoulder Lane, and this has Ti on the chorus, but this is a really hooky song. And I think a lot of folks probably just had this as like a ringtone and that type stuff. This was really infectious, one of those kind of snap rap and kind of simplistic minimalist kind of hooks in there. It just really works. It's a real slinky kind of beat, just a real jaunted and jolted kind of club song in a lot of ways. This has like that kind of smoke heavy kind of energy, and Young Dro does a good job with it, even if it seemed like it was more that Young Dro was just riding Ti's coattails on this song, where it's just probably folks were looking for more Ti songs and found this. I still feel like this is a highlight for Young Dro, just as far as having like a pretty thorough club cut. It's just kind of the fact that, unfortunately, I mean, I like Young Dro and these concepts as far as this being a hit song. It's just too bad that he couldn't figure out that the reason why Shoulder Lean was popular is because it was ringtone heavy. And that's kind of the problem. I like Rubber Band Banks. That's the second single. This is another hit as Rubber Band Banks, but Young Dro's chorus on here just does not hold a candle to Ti's chorus on Shoulder Lane. I just feel like, I think even if he wasn't going to recruit Ti again and again for more hooks, I think he should have at least had Ti possibly write some of his hooks, because I do feel like Rubber Band Banks is addictive, but I feel like it's just a far cry from the overall chart heaviness of Shoulder Lane. And it just kind of felt like I would have seen it as Ti just kind of gave Young Dro a song or a hit with Shoulder Lane, because I definitely feel like that was out of Ti's playbook. But Rubber Band Banks, this is kind of more of like just a kind of stock and just hardcore rap factory dirty south kind of song, but the chorus is just not near as catchy to be able to have that replayability and earworm kind of mentality. I feel like Shoulder Lean was kind of a meme song. This happens all the time where you'll get these meme songs like Lean Back and Shoulder Lean and like Pop Lock and Drop It and Chain Hang Low and some of that type stuff that are just popular because they're easy, they're catchy, and they just kind of have like affability as far as just like something signature that just is kind of meme ready and just gossip ready. But I feel like Rubber Band Banks didn't really do that, and that's just something that a lot of artists fell prey to throughout the 2000s, where they could have like that kind of hop and bop, just like quotable first single, and then sometimes they would have a second single that did it, but Young Dro just didn't. So really, he dried up pretty quickly. He was basically, Young Dro was just hot for like the brief summer of 2006, June, July, August of 2006. By the fall of 2006, he was gone, and the promotion of this album wrapped like pretty instantly. I think I at least like the fact that Rubber Band Banks was like an attempted single, and it has like a real militant kind of beats. It's really triumphant and militant, and it is pretty smoke ready highlights. Just a nice club song for that kind of feeling, if I didn't describe it enough. It's a nice militant kind of smoke ready song, and it has a great beat on here, but it just is not quite as, the beat is nowhere near as good as Shoulder Lane, and the hook isn't as good as Shoulder Lane. So that's just kind of the concept, but it is good. So this is kind of the thing. It's just more of a hardcore rap kind of song. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the 11 songs out of 16 I liked on this album. So there's actually a 16th song on the regular edition. There's just 15, but newer editions, like on iTunes, there's a song called Cartoon, which I don't know about that song. But then on the Spotify edition, there's another spare Young Dro song called She Tired of Me, which I had never heard. I just wonder about that. As far, I mean, I don't really like that song, but I'll go ahead and list the 11 songs I recommend out of 16 on here. So they would be Presidential, Rubber Band Banks, Man in the Trunk, They Don't Really Know About Dro, We Lied, My Girl, What It Is, Shoulder Lean, It Ain't Over, Gangsta, and High Five. So yeah, so some of these, like I feel like one of the best beats on this project and one of the cooler, just kind of smooth, kind of flute-like beats on here is Presidential. This is just a cool breeze, kind of cold as ice kind of song. I feel like Man in the Trunk is a nice stunting kind of song. This is definitely one for if you got a good sound system in your vehicle and it kicks and that type of stuff. That's the whole point of this song, is they call it Jackie Chan in the Trunk because it kicks like Jackie Chan does. And this kind of happens to be a thing. It's just a nice stunt and smooth kind of slow pull up, just kind of get to the venue, get to the house, get to the house party, that type of stuff, and people hear you coming down the street and that sort of thing. It's just a real slow groove kind of flossing kind of song. Has a lot of swag and style on it. I feel like they don't really know about Dro. It's just kind of like a stock. This is a militant kind of brassy kind of club cut. This is just kind of a spare club cut, but I still like it. This has a very militant sound. I think some of these militant kind of sounds I like that Young Dro kind of does. There's another one besides Rubber Band Banks, and they don't really know about Dro that does it. I'm just trying to remember which one it is. Maybe there isn't, but at least they don't really know about Dro, and Rubber Band Banks kind of have that militant kind of sound. I feel like Gangsta is a real that this one's a pretty sprawling club beat. I definitely like the kind of slow drawl kind of creep on here. This is a creepy one. This has a lot of kind of ghoulish and kind of menacing kind of energy about it. It Ain't Over has a real minimalist kind of beat on here. It's a skeletal kind of beat, but I do like it as like a ringtone rap kind of one. I just like that kind of like more FL. I like this kind of garage band and kind of more Soulja Boy type beat on here. It's kind of interesting to get Young Dro on like some just typical garage band type snap rap music and that sort of thing. I like that one. What It Is kind of a thumper. This is another stock and vanilla club kind of tune. I feel like High Five is another one that's kind of like that. Yeah, High Five is just a pretty simple. This one is probably the most vanilla out of all the club beats on here. Like I feel like they don't really know about Dro, High Five, Fresh, What It Is, It Ain't Over. These are all just vanilla kind of club cuts for the most part. Although I do like the kind of minimalist production of It Ain't Over, but High Five is like the most vanilla out of all the club songs on here. This is the most stock and just kind of typical kind of night at a club, something like that. So that's just an easygoing kind of one. There's just a lot of these. I feel like We Lied is a nice song. This was a real surprising highlight. This is a great, perfect kind of song for like relationship woes and that type stuff. Young Dro really kind of pulled this rabbit out of a hat extremely well, and I wasn't expecting this. This is on par with some of the stuff that T.I. kind of does. I'm surprised that this wasn't a single because it probably could have been. It has a great hook on here. Young Dro sings the hook on here, and it just really nails it. This is really like a smash hit easily. This is one of the best songs on the album. It's a great relationship song. And yeah, there just were some good ones. A lot of vanilla club cuts like High Five and What It Is, and like They Don't Really Know About Dro, kind of a stuntin' pull up song, and Man in the Trunk. A nice swagged out kind of cool breeze kind of song with Presidential, 2 hit singles in Shoulder Lean and Rubber Band Banks. My Girl with T.I. forgot to talk about that one. My Girl is just a nice, this has one of the best beats on the album. This is a nice sprawling kind of daisy, kind of hazed out kind of club tune, just talking about how your girl has a girlfriend and that type stuff. T.I. lays a verse on this song. I definitely felt like T.I. needed to be on here more. He kind of briefly dabs on this project just to talk about the fact that Young Dro is affiliated with T.I., but I would have liked at least one more verse from T.I., especially considering that he was completely in his prime in 2006. But I kind of feel like this is just an easy highlight. This is definitely one of the best songs on the album also. So this is kind of the thing. But so that about takes care of all the songs I recommend. So to talk about the 5 songs I didn't like, to talk about the 5 songs I didn't enjoy, 100-Yard Dash was kind of an awkward one. It's kind of an odd topic and just an odd placement. I did like the beat on there quite a bit, but this was kind of a random one. And the energy was just very manic and high tense, but it just kind of had an odd concoction as far as what the song topic was supposed to be about and such. That was just kind of an odd one. And You Don't See Me, like, I didn't like the particular Jazzy Faye productions this time around. Like, You Don't See Me was kind of a decent club bop, but I just didn't appreciate the arrangements quite as much. And it's the same thing with Fresh. Both Fresh and You Don't See Me were just kind of typical Jazzy Faye beats, but I felt like they just didn't have the distinction from most other Jazzy Faye beats. They just felt like more stock Jazzy Faye beats more so than actually something distinct to Young Dro. That's kind of the thing. Like, I really thoroughly enjoyed like Jazzy Faye's Let's Get Away beat, at least the original version of that was on trap music back in the day. I don't like the revised Let's Get Away, but Jazzy Faye can do some good tunes like that. But I don't know, I was kind of expecting some sort of left field kind of whimsical number to kind of go with Young Dro, just because they're both kind of fly and whimsical kind of dudes. But I just didn't see it this time, and that would make 3 songs. And like Hear Me Cry, that one was, I mean, this is the kind of tune that Tupac would make. This is definitely kind of a more emotional and kind of hard on your sleeve kind of song, but just didn't vibe quite as much with that one. I mean, it is there for folks who want a different shade of Young Dro than just the recreational stuff. If you're looking for something where you can feel a gangsta's pain and that type of stuff, that song is there, but I didn't see as much reason to mesh with that one. And then song number 16, which was She Tired of Me. I mean, that one was just a really kind of mellow and just lackadaisical song, and it just didn't carry the energy very well. Like, I think I would have preferred if Young Dro could have pulled off a lackadaisical song a lot better, but I don't know. I don't know if Young Dro particularly had the approach to be able to do it. Like, I think if Ti had done that song and made it like a different hook and a different song topic, it might have worked better. But I just didn't connect with how that song was kind of turning out. It just didn't really capture me as well as some of these other songs on here. Like Young Dro definitely has some of these tunes. He kind of pulled a surprise out of his hat with We Lied and songs like that. Man in the Trunk was a nice surprise. Presidential was a nice surprise, but I just didn't see it in like She Tired of Me. Me liking 11 songs out of 16, I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty solid. If it had been 11 out of 15, I probably would have given it like an 8.5 or an 8.75. But just that one bonus song that was added to the mix, if you do wind up getting the 16 song edition, there's various versions. There's the iTunes edition, there's the Spotify edition, and I don't know if there's other editions floating around, but sometimes there's a 16th bonus song. But in the old edition from 2006, there was just 15 songs. But me liking 11 out of 16, I'm just going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. And in terms of the social score, I really feel like I connected with this album. It just had chock full of good cuts on here, chock full of album cuts, chock full of social songs, club songs, ladies songs, swag songs, car songs, that type of stuff. Plenty of good moments. So I'm going to give the social score like a 10, just because that was outstanding, just the way he did it with this first album, good affiliation with T.I. And despite the fact that he was affiliated with T.I., T.I. did not have an overbearing presence, so Young Dro really did this mostly on his own. It's kind of happened to be the thing. So 10 social. In terms of the future, like Young Dro has dropped a series of albums. To me, this in terms of the future, Young Dro has dropped a series of albums, but like I said, it was from 2013 forward, so he took 7.5 years off between dropping his first and second album. But I feel like this is still his most noteworthy project, but I do like the fact that he did drop some mixtapes, so I do want to check out some of those. He does have some quality hits. I'm going to have to check out some more of his mixtapes and that type of stuff. But yeah, I just really wish that there would have been another album or two like Best Thing Smoking, because this is excellent, but he just kind of lost his prime years by not pumping out more music around this time period. But yeah, this is good stuff, and I am going to check out some of his mixtapes.